Well, today is the Feast of the Holy Family, and so we're kind of really especially focusing in on families and family life. I don't know how many of you know this, but the church speaks very highly about families. In the Second Vatican Council, one of the things that was said specifically about the family is that it is the domestic church. And that's to say that this is the first context where children get to learn about the faith, where they start to experience God and God's love. And so the family has an especially important role in the life of the church to fill that role. It's vitally important. Maybe you can even look at like religious ed and CCD programs and all of those things. And as important and as good as those are, without the foundation and the structure of the family life, those things aren't able to flourish like they should. They're supposed to be support structures for you as families. So, family life is a place where you learn about God and you learn about God's love. And in the midst of family life, we have these, I like it whenever there's these kind of hard words to really hear. There's words in the scriptures that just don't sound good to our ears as modern millennial people. For instance, in that letter to the Colossians, it's on the other page, wives, be subordinate to your husbands. That makes a lot of people cringe, and I understand that. Because we live in a society where we're all very free, and we should all very well be able to speak our minds and be independent persons. So how can St. Paul say something like this? Wives, be subordinate to your husbands, as is proper in the Lord. He also goes on to say, though, that husbands, love your wives. He says almost an exact parallel thing in the letter to the Ephesians, chapter 5, where we get a huge chunk of our theology about marriage. He again says, wives, be submissive to your husbands. Again, cringe, right? But he also says, husbands, love your wives, lay down your lives as Christ lays down his life for the church. And so, again, if the family is this domestic church where children are supposed to first learn about God and the faith, then they're going to learn it from the way you as parents treat one another. All of you who are aspiring to marriage are aspiring to a very noble thing. It's not just the default vocation. It's not somehow less holy than priesthood or religious life. In a lot of ways, it's probably even more difficult and calls you more to holiness than something like priesthood does. Because I don't have somebody who's on the daily tasking me to be more holy. Husbands have to love their wives as Christ loves the church. And what does that love look like but the cross? And so husbands, you're tasked to love your wives so radically that you would lay down your life for her. Again, that's not an easy thing. Because again, we live in a society where individualism is king, where we are self-made persons, where nobody should be holding us back from living our destiny or whatever else might run through our minds. But once you've committed yourself in a marriage relationship, you're connected. You're willing to give everything. At least that's what you're saying when you come in front of the altar, in front of God's minister. You're willing to deal with whatever comes your way, even screaming little ones. God bless you. No, I'm glad she's here. This is a reminder for all of us that no matter what, we're supposed to show the love of Christ, which oftentimes, all the time, means laying down our lives for one another, for being inconvenienced by the little one, for being inconvenienced by your spouse because your spouse is dealing with something that's very difficult, because you love. And the better you're able to do that as married people, or all of you who are dating, or whatever kind of relationships you have, even friendships, in a smaller way, you're showing us what love looks like. You're showing us how to be like Christ. You're showing us how to live like Joseph did in taking his family wherever he had to go for their safety, even all the way to Egypt, because you love. So, friends, especially wives and husbands, love one another like Christ loves the church. Be subordinate to one another out of love, so that you can be a witness to us of what love really is, of what love really looks like. So we don't cheapen it. So we don't settle for some knockoff or imitation. But the radical love that loves even the screaming child, that loves in every circumstance.